All right, time now for the Frankie from Flatbush show. Yeah, we're going to take a look at some of the news of the day. It is currently Wednesday, March the 26th, 18:02 hours here on the East Coast of America. And we're going to take a look at the news items from the day. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you a question. Would you enthusiastically support, let's say, like a 6 p.m. Eastern Time every night, Monday through Friday, Frankie from Flatbush Show live? What if I did a 6 p.m. thinking about this idea? 6 p.m. every night, Monday through Friday, a live show where we go through all of the news items of the day, sports news items, mostly Jets, of course, but NFL, baseball, anything else that's popping up, popping off, and we just chat about the world of sports. 6 o'clock every night. If you would enthusiastically support this, let me know in the comments section down below. If we get 30 comments of enthusiastic support, then I'll definitely do it. Otherwise, it's just a maybe, just a thought. All right. Well, who cares about that, Frankie? Let's get into the news. All right. But if you'd subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate that. If you give me a thumbs up, I'd appreciate that. If you want to join the inner circle where you get exclusive items, I'd appreciate that. There's a join button down below, $5 a month. And if you want a Jets coffee mug, you can get that with a link down in the description. All right, with that being said, let's go to the news of the day. Some of this news of the day has already been published to the inner circle members. So if you're a member of the inner circle, we already published this to you. You already know about this stuff because we put it out earlier today. But it's just as a sneak preview or sneak peek to any non-members, some of the things that you get here, and also just this is a good record. This is a good record of some of the news of the day. So one of the things we learned today, per Ryan Fowler on X, the Jets have scheduled a 30 visit with Kansas linebacker J.B. Brown for Friday. Quote from Ryan Fowler, one of the fastest athletes at Big 12 Pro Day. He recently met with the defensive staff of the Texans and is scheduled to meet with the Jets on Friday, source said. 200 plus career tackles, 5 forced fumbles, 8.5 sacks in college. Also received interest from the Seahawks, 49ers, Cowboys, and will attend the Chiefs' local day on April 7th. So I say could be a late round pick or UDFA. And then we go through an extensive bio of this gentleman. And so if you were an inner circle member, you could read through all this. We're not going to do so now, but here he is. He's on our radar. We'll see. I stole this little graphic from Jordan Schultz, developing from NFL outsider Frankie from Flatbush. Now, the second news item, Dick Chimney put out one of his terrible podcasts today, and I listened to the whole thing, so you don't have to. But here are some of the highlights he mentioned. It's a very slow news time for the NFL right now, so any kind of tidbits are kind of worth discussing. And the owners' meetings are starting up at the end of the week, this Sunday through the beginning of the week next week. Chimney will be in attendance. AG and Muji will speak. Jets keeping a low profile. Not doing any press conferences, Zoom calls, and he was complaining about this. And he's saying back to football mentality is being stalled by AG. And he said, my personal opinion is whatever. It has nothing to do with wins and losses. With his stupid fucking voice. And to me, he's just complaining that there's no press conferences, and that makes it harder for him to do his job. Fucking loser. Anyway, free agent recap. Lost 11 players, $200 million contracts, added 13 newbies, $100 million. We'll get into more of that as we move along. They will ask AGDM on Monday about the Chooks Okorafor signing, which is out of character with the rest of the signings. So that's good news. We'll get them to at least answer for that one. As of right now, we might have the worst collection of pass catchers in the league. Concerning to Chimney, he says not giving Justin Fields a good chance to succeed here. Wants them to make a bold move and almost certainly will draft one. Alan Lazard likely to be cut 6-1. Then he goes into the draft and he does not believe, based on his sources, that we will take a quarterback at 7. And this confirms Bert Breer's reporting. And I say we're not taking a quarterback at all, probably unless unusual circumstances occur until the UDFA ranks, because we have too many holes to fill. And I do think they want to give Fields a full chance to see what he could do. Maybe they strike lightning in a bottle. And I also do think they want to work with Jordan Travis as well. He thinks there's only 4 blue chip prospects in the draft: Carter, Hunter, Graham, and Gianti. He would not take Warren at 7 because he's a tight end, but of course he doesn't know what he's talking about. Quincy Williams, interesting tidbit. The previous regime told Quincy that he would get a new contract before the 25 season, but of course that regime is out. And we got a new regime, so he does not know how this new regime will approach it. And Quincy is a tradable commodity. You could see him traded to Atlanta, where Olbrich is, or San Francisco, where Saleh is, or a lot of other teams would be interested in Quincy Williams as well. He does have a quote on the record that the new regime is excited to work with Jordan Travis. So there's that. Jalen Hyatt was mentioned as a name to watch for the Giants. He's terrible. We should not grab him. Somebody asked him, if Membu, Warren, Graham are there at 7, who do you take? He said he'd take Graham. Will the Jets take Milroe? Would be surprised. No movement on a G-Dub extension just yet. Calendar of upcoming events, mostly conditioned. The Jets will start their offseason program April 7th because they have a new regime. They're allowed to start early. Overall comment, it's pretty clear how everything the Jets do is spun into the negative by Chimney. Having weak pass catchers and Justin Fields, for example, could be spun as an indication that this will be a ground and pound team built to win in December and January when the weather is a major factor, for example. But he takes the opposite view, of course. Hopefully, someday, some damn day, the team will win enough games to get these guys to at least have a smidgen of optimism. There's a stupid face. Okay, so that's news item number 2. News item number 3, also coming from Dick Chimney over on X. So now we learned some of the details about some of these contracts here. As I said earlier in some of my other videos, I really doubted that the Cisco deal was $10 million, and in fact it is not. 7.5 guaranteed. That seems about right to me. So still a fairly large investment, especially considering some of the other guys we picked up, but not 10 million, 7.5. So we have more available for other people. Now look at some of these contracts that some of these guys got. Stone Smart, 1.35. That's not big. Tyler Johnson, same thing, basically the same contract. These are minimum contracts. Derek Nottie, 1.4. Rashad Weaver, 1.2. Jay Tefeli, 1.2. Boyd, 1.6. These are very minimal contracts, which tells you there was not competition to sign these guys. There was not a huge market for them. And they're basically a bunch of tomato cans, as I've been telling you, for the most part, with the exception of Cisco and maybe Stone Smart can do something. And maybe Tyler Johnson can do something. Isaiah Oliver got 2.5. Nwangu got 1.4. That's a good deal for us because he's mostly a kick returner. And Jamin Davis, 1.3. I mean, these are very minimal contracts with very minimal guarantees. They're clearly roster fillers. Now, the problem, of course, is, we were told we were going to win. We were trying to win this year. That's what we were told, and that's what the players were told. It'd be a different story if they said, we need a year to reset everything. Then it'd be like, all right, who cares? And we kind of would tune out this year a little bit and wait for next year. But with all these kind of people filling the roster, the inevitable thing that happens then is that the Jets over-under win total is 5.5. So Vegas has set us up at 5.5. So 5 wins, 6 wins with this group. 5.5. No bueno. No external expectations for Glenn and Company, says Samini. Only the Browns and Giants are lower. So we're the 3rd worst team in the league according to Vegas. And you got to put a little bit of stock into this. Now, one of the reasons for this is because this is mostly driven by high profile positions like quarterback, wide receiver, and things of that nature, and coaches, and also a track record, of proven success. We don't have any of that. We haven't proven anything except that we're terrible, and our quarterback is a giant question mark. Now, one of the questions that people had for Cimini was, well, can't what's the odds that Justin Fields becomes sort of like Jalen Hurts? So let's do a little comparison. And what you could do here is if you look at these stats, you can learn a lot from statistics. You can't learn everything. You do have to watch the tape. It is important to put your eyeballs on the game. But the numbers tell you something. As I've been saying for years and years and years, the first thing you look at when you're looking at a quarterback is completion percentage. It's not the only thing you look at, that's the first thing. And what we got to get to is 65%. If you remember, we had all these discussions about Zach Wilson and where he was at. And I kept telling you guys he's got to be at about 65% more or less. And same thing goes with Fields. Fields runs much better, of course, than Wilson and a lot of other people. He's an elite runner, so he doesn't necessarily need to be at 65, but he needs to be around there. And you can see the first 3 years he was nowhere close, and that's why Chicago moved on from him. Not the only reason, but you have to be able to hit a high percentage of your throws in terms of completions in the NFL. You just have to. It's sort of like the minimum thing that you got to do. If you can't do that, it hardly matters what else you can do. Very rare exceptions. I mean, sometimes you can get away with, in the modern day NFL, that is. The modern day is from 2012 to now. But you notice something. In this last year, he got it up to 65.8. So he met the threshold. Now, the problem is he did play in 10 games, but only started 6 and only had 161 pass attempts. So if you remember, he started out the year as the starter. He got the Steelers off to a good start. Then they yanked him for Russell Wilson. Wilson got off to a good start and then fell apart down the stretch. And they lost their playoff game. So the question is this, I mean, you can see that it improved every year. 58.9, very bad. 60.4, still bad. 61, so he's getting a little better. And then a big leap, but in a small sample size. So that's the problem. So the question is this real or not? Now, the next thing you look at is Anya. So I was telling you guys about Anya. Average net yards per attempt. Way too low, starting to get there, almost good. So Anya has improved every single year, but it's still not to the place where it needs to be. You need to be over 6 in Anya. Anya takes into account everything. Your running, your sacks, your throwing. Every time you try to throw the ball, how far do you get it on average? And it's got to be in the 6s. So he's almost there, and he's improving. But again, the improvement where he's almost there in the last year is in a small sample size. So this is why the Jets are taking a shot with this kid, because there's something, if you squint your eyes a little bit, there's something to like. And then, of course, he's an elite runner on top of all that. But we're just talking about passing now. And can he get to Hurts? Why? Because Jalen Hurts was sort of the same thing. He was an elite runner. He can do the tush push, okay? But people did not believe that he was the passer. And look at the first 2 years. 52, terrible. Oh, my God, but only 4 games. Then made a jump, 61.3, but still not good enough. But then year 3 happened, and look, 66.5, 65.7, 68.7. So he made it to the threshold and has stayed there all the years. Now let's look at the other thing. Anya. First year is where Fields is now, or was his last year, 5.85. 6.35, good enough. 7.31, excellent. 5.96 from on the verge. And then this year, 6.93, good again. Almost 7. If you get it into the 7s, you're excellent. If you get in the 6s, you're good enough. The high 5s you can get away with, but you'd really want it in the 6s. Now, what does this really say about Fields? Because what it really means is that This 5.86, it needs to get better. He needs to push the ball down the field more. If you're completing a lot of your passes behind the line of scrimmage, well, that's good. It's gonna get your completion percentage up, but those aren't going to be big plays typically. And so you're doing a lot of short game and a lot of screens and little easy to complete passes. If you can have a high completion percentage and a big anya, that usually means you're pushing the ball down the field, and now you're a real threat as a quarterback, running, throwing. You're getting the job done pretty much. So the question is, it's actually a decent comparison, except Hertz did it. The thing that Hertz did was he did it in the pivotal year. The pivotal year for a quarterback, rookie quarterback these days, is year three. The expectation is bad. Yep. Better. Yep. And then good. Yep. Got it. He hit it. He hit his marks. Basically, that's what you want. I mean, you'd prefer a guy come in and be awesome right away. But but if he's considered developmental and in terms of like a club waiting, how long are they going to wait? This is what they're going to want to see. If you're bad your first year, okay, that's fine. You're a rookie. Year two, you better improve. Okay, you hit that. But you're still not good enough. So you're still uncertainty. Okay, you got another year, third year. We got to make a decision about your contract, etc. So you better get to the thresholds we need. And boom, he hit it. And so now and then the Eagles are off and going. Um, so, you know, that's the way to look at it. And that's why the Jets are taking a chance. But of course, the 5.5 people, these people here, the 5.5 people, saying five, but they're not looking at all that. They're in the betting markets, right? They're in the betting markets, and the betting markets are just going to go off of what is generally known. They're not going to be looking for extreme details about Anya and guys taking a leap and what could happen. They're just looking at it and going, what do people think about Justin Fields? Meh, not such a high opinion. What else do they got? Do they got a wide receiver room? They got Garrett and nothing else. They lost a lot on defense. They got a first year head coach. There's no way they're going to put our win total very high. They're just not, especially when you look at these signings. Nobody from a betting world is going to look at these signings and say, "Oh my God, that's amazing. That's going to move the needle." None of these guys that we signed are moving any needles. Now, these signings don't include Fields and Stevens, and we could argue about the Stevens contract all day long. And and Jamian Sherwood, isn't here. But that's why it's at a 5.5. But it could work out. I mean, the way you look at it is things could work out where we sneak into the playoffs if this improvement by Fields is real and continues, and the Anya gets into the sixes, and he keeps there's other things to look at. I mean, if you look at his interception percentage, you got to keep this at a 2.0. Interception percentage got to be 2.0 or less. No good, no good. Close, excellent. So, you see the improvement. The problem is the last year was a small sample size, and you don't know if it's real. You don't want to be turning the ball over. And 3.7 is way too high. 3.5 too high. 2.4 is okay, close to the target, and then 0.6 is excellent. But again, and you look at Jalen Hurts. What's his career complete interception percentage? 2.0, right on the mark. This guy hits his marks. Jalen Hurts hits the marks. He never was as high as Fields was his first 2 years, but 2.7 still a little too high. But then he gets it into the range. Excellent. Still a little too. Then he went a little too high his next year, but still, not horrible. And then got it way below here, 1.4, and it averages out to 2.0, exactly where you want to be. So these basic stats can tell you a lot. If just eyeballing it as to why teams are making decisions and stuff like that. Guys, just these numbers translate into how things look on the field. I mean, it's just the way it is. If you're not hitting passes at a high clip, it's a problem. If you're throwing way too many interceptions, it's a problem, but you have to know what too many interceptions is. If a guy throws 1,000 passes, and has 10 picks versus a guy who throws 20 passes and has 10 picks, it's not the same, right? So that's why we need percentages. But anyway, so that's what's going on. Those are the news items of the day for the Jets. not looking too good as far as projections. We're going to fly under the radar, which could be a good thing. Could be a good thing if Fields turns out to be able to do what he always does in terms of running and then improves his passing game. We could have something. But at the same time, a lot of people are looking at our roster, including Dick Chimney, and going, we really need a lot of improvement here. What is going on? Especially the wide receiver room. So we'll see. But that's really the news of the day. So let me know down in the comments if you want to do a more expansive what if we did every weekday Frankie from Flatbush show live at 6 p.m. Eastern time. If we get 30 enthusiastic comments about it in the below, I'll do it for sure. But we'll see how that goes. Otherwise, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Give it a thumbs up, and if you want to join the inner circle, we get exclusive items, not just those things that you saw, many other exclusive items as well. Click the join button down below. It's $5 a month for that. Otherwise, maybe get yourself a coffee mug. Click the link in the description. Help out old Frankie with an affiliate link there, and get yourself a nice Fanatics Jets coffee mug. What could be better than that? And I will see you next time.
Non-pertinent. How do you log that non-pertinent?
No drug talk?
They use codes to hide their patron phone numbers. And when someone does use a phone, they don't use names. And if someone does use a name, he's reminded not to. All of that is valuable evidence.
Of what?
Conspiracy.
Conspiracy?
We're building something here, Detective. We're building it from scratch. All the pieces matter.